This is an ancient conversation. Absorb this expression with your first eye vision, bringing forth the light of indigenous wisdom. Root knowledge to circumvent Western logic. We're the black womb that generates the esoteric. Modern day Imhotep constructing step pyramids to the mind's apex. Trained in the warrior arts of Kemet. Don't think about flexing with some thug activity. Annihilate your self-hate with Kupagani, Capoeira, and Djembe harmony. Sons of Sankofa here to bring quartz clarity. Ushering the wisdom of antiquity. That medicinal remedy served through golden seal poetry. Guiding through word sound, claiming our destiny. Removing the corrosion around the heart chakra. Feel the presence of our ancestors. Sankofa spreads her wings, spanning the hemispheres of the universe. Just remembering our roots helps to navigate us through the Kali Yuga course. The nigga curse, gotta celebrate ignorance. Nigga lives in the absence of consciousness. Self-knowledge heals the Urugu virus. Know thyself, African, reclaim your brilliance. Our creative genius is limitless. Sun's here to sanitize our community from mental pollution and moral debris. Establishing the pillars of a spirit-centered identity.
The beauty of this life is the choices. So you have a choice. If you're going to manifest the spirit of someone who's been systematically oppressed and enslaved their entire life, or you can manifest the spirit of a warrior, of a spiritual warrior who brings balance in the midst of disorder. Be that which your people need most.
From male to boy, the man to divine. Walking in time with their ancestors' mind. Living the legacy of traditional rhythms. Vessel used to express indigenous wisdoms. Djembe drum the language of harmony. Reconnecting the severed pieces of a lost identity. Old Willie, a conqueror of the African psyche. Now operating as an I instead of we. Calling or set to assemble the scattered memory. Words sound uttered clearly through the voice of Tahuti. The Jali's here to preserve our story. Straight from the fertile ground of the river Hapi, we come bearing unks in this time of destruction. Ancient man in the present, direct from the Dogon civilization. Our origins straight out of Sirius B. Yo, I'm Sirius B, you're a star. Blinging like the Big Dipper, iced out like the 21st century lost nigga. From nigga to knowledge to action. Sons of Sankofa, identity surgeons. Casting out the poisonous toxins of self-ignorance. Recharging the pineal gland, igniting the African conscience. Preparing Andinkra soup with nectar root crackers. Recipe for the colonial-minded self-haters. Administering the meiotic enema, purging the dire nigga trauma. Nourishing the lost child from Africa to his nature. Come ride the sturdy wings of Sankofa as we prepare for the sun's takeover.
Djembe means unity. And as African people, which we are, Africans, we must understand that first there must be a process of unifying self and understanding self. The oppressor has had influence over us, but not power. Power
all right.
is something that we
Greetings all, and good dawning. Welcome to another community or sunrise salutation, however we want to put it. Just welcome everyone to this moment, and that we call enlightenment and transformation. And I see people already in the chat room and chatting it up, so that's always a good thing when everyone's when they're greeting each other. So let me welcome all of you first time listeners. Let me start with you today. Those of you calling in, or I'm still saying calling, right? Still used to the blog talk. But those of you flying in from YouTube now and coming in from YouTube later and whatever broadcast medium that you're picking us up on, I just welcome you to this moment and this time that we call enlightenment and transformation. My name is Chief Yuya, as some of you may know. So yeah, we've been building on or rummaging through the archives of familial and empirical wisdom in the last couple of segments, and really just dealing with the ideas surrounding kingdom building and our responsibilities as women and as men and as family. And I know a lot of the information that has come forth is maybe been a bit cutting, or as we can say, abrasive for some of you listeners. But there's always going to be balance in the universe, regardless if we call for it or not. There's going to be balance because the universe has a natural way, a natural function inside of itself to always balance out itself. So as a result, one day you may be listening to information and it may be very pleasing to your ears and may be very affirming even, in terms of what you're currently doing or what you want to do. And then the next day you may hear some information that, may be a little harder to digest, or it may be a more bitter pill to swallow. But, just like in your meals, you need different taste. You need different taste across your palate, or your palate coats and numbs out. Sweetness is good, but so is the bitter. So is the spicy. So is the cooling. There's so many different stimulations that are good for the body organism, and more essentially for the all, or for all. Let me take the from it, because yes, we deify things with the but sometimes also with the we create distance. So we say the all or the universe. And what we tend to do sometimes with the word because of maybe because we don't have a strong perception, a strong idea of a God consciousness or a deity consciousness, when we hear we create distance immediately. We distance it from ourselves. So sometimes it's good, even though the is powerful, and its divine aspect. Sometimes it's good to take the out, just to remove the so that way we can get a little closer to the concept. So, like I said, universe has a natural inclination to balance itself. So, like I said, you may hear something that is very cutting or maybe a little bit difficult for you to digest on this segment, and you may tune in somewhere else and someone is saying that everything you're doing is perfect, everything that you're perceiving is right, and all things are right with the universe, and nothing needs to be altered, or nothing in your movements or your activity or your character need to be adjusted in any shape, form, or fashion, because all things are as they are meant to be. It's all about balance. Just keep that in mind. It's all about balance. You don't always, or shouldn't always, want to hear the same information, which is one of the reasons why I tend to jump around a little bit. We stay with certain themes, but we don't want it to turn into a preachy experience, because I can easily go egghead on you all and just either preach, all month, or dissect to the level that the information is unrelatable, But even in this environment, enlightenment and transformation, we strive towards balance. That myotic balance is key. So I just wanted to share that, for those who may be listening to some of the information and say, oh my goodness, like, you're telling me I'm raggedy. He said I was raggedy because I don't have, certain things in place, and I'm doing the best I can. I didn't see myself as being raggedy. And, He's talking about going to heaven and slicing up angels if they try to send him back. And, obviously, balance. We employ humor and wit. And we utilize our humor and our wit, along with our spiritual psychology and intellect in order to crack open different parts of the brain. Everything is calculated. Even when you think it's not calculated, it's all calculated. But and Akaro, to all of you in the chat room, peace to everyone. Good dawning. I have to commend you, for riding. It seems like every day I talk to one of my colleagues, and I'm told about maybe one of their godchildren or one of their close friends, and they're like, yeah, Chief, my friend this or friend that, they listen to you every day. And this, because there's so many people who tune in from the different outlets and stuff, and I don't see you all like that. I can feel you, but I don't see you. I don't know names and things like that. So it's always a very interesting experience, especially when you have a little show. You know what I mean? It's not like I got a big thing going on here, but this is where I always talk about the power of the nucleus. It's just you don't need these huge mass empty movements. When you look at a cell body, the majority of that cell is empty space. Even the same for quote unquote outer space. The majority of it is empty. The dense compressed matter only makes up a very small portion of what it is. Just like 97% of what exists, we can't even see. So it's very similar, but it's that small nucleic force that moves and motivates and propels and impels everything else in the environment to make certain changes and certain moves. So, it's just very interesting. Like I said, when I speak to some of my colleagues and they're like, yeah, so-and-so listens to you all the time. They love your information. This, that, the third. They're all over it. I said, I never heard of this person. Who's this? I don't know them, So, yeah, it's a beautiful thing when you see the information being spread and going far out to the point that it loops back around to you, So, yeah, man. But, I wanted to speak on something maybe briefly. I've been saying briefly every show, right? Because, every show I'm still aiming for 30 minutes. What's today? Friday? Wednesday's show was like 3 hours. Yesterday was 2 hours and change. But I'm aiming for 30 minutes to an hour. But I have to ease you guys into it. I got to slowly back down. Because if I just do a 30-minute show, and I don't know. I notice the ripples when I do stuff like that. It takes, the ripples sometimes have a disastrous effect. But something simple I wanted to speak. Well, maybe not so simple. Simple beginning, but maybe not so simple for some, depending on the circumstances. But we've been speaking about empire building and kingdom building for some time now, and the elements and the ideologies that go into building in such a manner, and the necessity for it, and who does what. Yesterday I think we dug in a little bit deeper in terms of who does what, just a little bit more. We covered some of the cursory information without necessarily, and I'm making a distinctive point to not necessarily go so far back in the past and using historical chronicle to say, well, this is how we did this is how we did that. I'm infusing a little bit of that, but not too much. I find that sometimes when we do that, when we have a supreme concentration on going back and getting things that we never cast ourselves forward. We spend a lifetime priding ourselves on our historical prowess of what was done without really looking how to apply it today or looking to change what will be done. So making a distinctive point not to necessarily speak about too many familial systems of the past, other than just grazing over them in a cursory perspective, but explaining why it is valuable to do what we need to do today and how that shapes what we'll do tomorrow. Again, from a familial perspective. So I wanted to just speak about family for just a moment, because again, we've spoken about empires, we've spoken about kings and emperors and empresses and princes and princesses and dukes and earls and all of these titles that we may actually never even end up using in our lifetimes to refer to ourselves or those around us. But I brought up some of the words just so that there will be maybe some clarity, some corporate clarity surrounding the actual terms. But I have done shows previously on family and what constitutes a family and things like that, and so that information has been broken down here on Enlightenment Transformation, such as the show I did on Sun, Moon, and Stars, where I really got into some of the detriments of a disintegrating family, a family that lacks resiliency, or a family that's under attack, and how that attack, sometimes even the internal attacks between mother and father, father and mother, how it affects children. So we've covered those elements, from a metaphorical perspective, but definitely from a metaphysical perspective. But some of the basics of family, a lot of times you'll find that I may make a statement, but then go back and then lift up rocks and turn over things and really make sure that you understand the very basics of what is being expressed to you. Because, like I said, sometimes we have a tendency to seek to be right without seeking for understanding. And when we do that, when we don't take the time to understand one another, we are committing acts of hatred against one another. Believe it or not, a loving and respectful family, is a family that's full of understanding. So that's what sometimes you'll notice when people ask me questions, I'll say, wait a minute, I need you to clarify the whole question. That's me expressing love. And I know it may not feel like it or seem like it. It may even feel a little bit annoying. Why doesn't he just answer the question? I want to make sure that you get what you came for. That's why. And you may be wording something in a way that might be nonsensical, but you don't know it yet. But I'm gonna teach you in a moment. So just the very idea of seeking to understand and listen to one another, which is a key thing. I know a lot of us, we lack listening skills and critical thinking and the will to endure in order to resolve our situations, because maybe there's a lack of healthy commitment within our familial structures. There's a lack of protection. There's a lack of strength. So breaking it down from empires, breaking it down from kingdoms, just for a moment, I want to address the actual family, because remember, the kingdom and the empire, or even the clan for that matter, is a distinction of the family. So you want to look at the corporate body of the family first, and you want to look at the level of health and see the family as a critical building block of the community. And that's, again, we can say indigenous culture or modern culture, no matter how you look at it, a family is a critical building block of a community, which is a critical building block of a nation. All right. So again, breaking it down a little bit, one of the main things, simple things, right? When we look at family, or we look at maybe what defines a family, or what keeps a family intact. I'm gonna tell you that the number one thing, all right, and I know most people will think, they'll say, oh, love is what keeps a family together. No, not necessarily. You don't necessarily need that much love. I know that sounds a little weird, but keep in mind that people chant for love a lot, especially in relationship settings. You never loved me. I loved you more than you loved me, or we didn't love each other. I don't love you anymore. I'm out of love with you. I was in love with you. It just goes on and on, right? But I think you all know, those of you who've been listening for some time now, you all know that most people don't even know what the word love means. So they may chant for it repeatedly and consistently, but they really don't know what it is that they're asking for. They really don't know what it is that they're looking for when they make these calls for a love union, or say, I fell out of love. A lot of times when they're using the term love, they're really speaking of infatuation or affection. So love is not as critical, believe it or not, in a family. Love provides that cohesion of a family, but there's nothing worse than being congealed to someone or something that is harmful to you, or someone or something that reeks of instability and moral or spiritual poverty. So the congealing or the connecting force that we call love, is not the supreme and paramount feeling or notion or conception that need be present for a family to survive. And a lot of times families lose the ability to attain their children and attain the minds of each member, because there may be dramatic or profound changes externally, or cultural shifts that happen within a family environment that have an impact on those living within said family. But once we recognize, again, like I said earlier, that the family is a critical and crucial building block to the community, then it makes it a little bit maybe easier for those of you who are in tune and in sync with some of the social components that many currently live under. You understand why there is a general and real impacting attack on the institution of family, or the institution that unites a man and a woman in order to squad up to raise their children, right? Like I said yesterday, in yesterday's segment, if it takes two particular people to create and craft a particular child or children, it takes those same two particular people to raise those children. There's no getting around that. And I know we tried to get around it because sometimes we forget that our familial institutions are under attack. So we're told that so many things constitute and make up what a family is. Anything can be a family. Like I said, you and just your child. Well, that's my family. No, it's not. You and the individual who you had a child with. That's my family. No, it's not. You and your dogs. That's my family. No, it's not. You and your cats. They're like children to me. That's not your family. So the institution of marriage and the institution of family, and I don't like to use that word marriage too much, as you all know. I use it like maybe once or twice a year. I don't even like the word sound, nothing about it to mar, marriage, very similar to the word mortgage, which in French means the march of death. Mort, death. Mortgage marches you to death. By definition. Believe that? But anyway, so but there is clearly certain tasks that have been put in place that seek to block the teaching and protecting and providing of children in a way that is primary and effectual for their healthy growth. I mean, you should know that by now. I don't want to have to. I shouldn't have to go through statistics and things like that at this point. If you've been listening to this channel long enough, then at least that piece you should know. All right. So there's a reason for that, of course. But as I was saying, there's a primary thing that really constitutes what a family is that many of us miss, especially those of us who claim enlightenment or higher consciousness or higher awareness or just consciousness period or cultural elevation. There's a lack of cohesiveness as it comes to values, mores, and principles. When you have man, woman, and child, and there's a shared system of values, mores, and principles, now you're moving much closer to what we would call a family. And one of the reasons why I'm expressing this and mentioning this is because so often I see people who are seemingly, let me turn this phone off. All right, sorry about that. I just didn't want any disturbances because it's around that time where the phone starts to scream for obligation. Chief. But anyway, so often you see people who are seemingly committed and devoted to paths of cultural awareness and elevation. However, they don't share that information in a regimented and formatted way with their children or even their families for that matter. So what happens as a result, the values that they hold dear to them and that they stay true to are not the same values that their families hold true to or hold dear to them. So therefore, it creates a separation of family because there's a different vision, there's a different perspective. There's a separated and distinctive worldview. When you have that within a group or collective of people, then you don't have a family. And I know it's tough to think about because you may say, but no, there's people in my home who look like me, and sound like me, and sometimes even think like me. But again, if your value structure, your mores, your principles, your doctrine, your calculation, your philosophies are not shared, then you do not have a family. And again, I know rough stuff to hear, but again, the universe lends itself and leans itself and has a proclivity towards balance. So again, you may hear things on this station, on this channel, and these segments that you don't hear other places. But again, that's where balance comes in. There's always going to be a push and pull towards something that's right and something that's wrong. And between right and wrong, therein arises the truth. All right. So, I'm not speaking necessarily, I'm not trying to speak against what other people may be teaching you or speaking in terms of full, absolutes, but definitely giving you hopefully a shift from some of the information that you may receive that corresponds to your own destruction. So again, having loving and honest and integral connections between members where those connections are sustained by shared values. And when you look at values, think of the word, I did a show before, I think just on the letter V, Vav, in our Hebraic alphabet. The Vav, V-A-V, being the tent stake or the tent post that was used to hold down the holy tabernacles. So you see the Vav or the values, is what holds down and stakes, stakes into the ground, S-T-A-K-E, stakes into the ground, the actual covering of what is holy. You see, so the values that your family transmits amongst themselves, very similar to culture. In a community, you have transmittable values and principles and mores that are centered around the community, which creates not only a community cohesiveness, but a shared community corporate vision. Well, again, remember, the community is an extension of the family, so the family has to have the same exact format within it. It has to have those experiential and integrative values that are shared amongst members, And if you don't have that, you don't have a family. There's no getting around it. Because what happens is a couple things here. A lot of times, sometimes we're so busy, fighting the society and trying to commit ourselves to be resilient against the bounce back of a very predatory and aggressive community or society, social structure that many of us live in. We really don't give time, aside from providing the utilities of sustenance to our family members. A lot of times we really don't give the time to speak about values and commitments and dedications and devotions and the things that we hold dear to us. So what happens as a result, we now have homes full of these fractured individuals with fractured principles, with fractured ideas. One of the simple things that sometimes we don't do, which is very simple to do, we don't share our family history or our personal history, even with our children. How many of you have taken your children to the place you grew up? Show them, where your first job was, or your first employment, or your first business, or but shared your actual past with them. See, one of the values in having familial stories, or familial tales, and holding on to them and maintaining that oral tradition, because it gives members of the family an idea of how the family historically has dealt with triumph and adversity, or turned adversity into triumph. You may share things like, I used to work over here at this factory and we all got laid off and I was out of work for 9 months. You might share how you came back from that and the things that you had to do and the sacrifices you had to make. And, grandpa may also have that kind of story, or grandma may have that story, or your uncle or your auntie. There may be shared stories to share amongst all. And that starts to give those youth not only a sense of self-esteem, but it gives them a better sense of positioning in the world contextual environment. They understand that, there are rough times and there are smooth times to be had by all. But their creation, there was a precursor and a prelude to their creation, of people who went through some hard times, or maybe people who went through some great times. But somehow through all of that, they were still able to create them. And they were still able to have fun in their lives and things like that. So they get a sense of the timeline continuum of what a family represents, you see. And again, it's so simple. That's not something, well, like I said, it's a simple thing, like I said in the beginning of the segment. But yeah, sometimes that may be difficult for some of you if the strong bond of family has been decreased and influenced maybe by a lack or a lack of family, for one, but maybe not knowing who your family is. Maybe you don't know your grandparents or your aunties and your uncles, or maybe your life, as far as you see, maybe it's been uneventful. You might still be living in the house that you grew up in, so in your mind you may feel like, well, I haven't really developed a strong bond, to family triumphs and experiences like that, because I don't really know them. I don't know those people like that. I don't know those people very well. But there's other things that you can do. Honestly, just deliberately and willingly spending time and working with each other and playing. I don't want to exclude playing, because playing is important. But that's a key thing. I often tell sisters who I may meet or who express an interest, if you want to get to know me, work with me. All of that, let's go to the movies and sit down and stare at each other's face eating dinner. I'm not interested in that. I have very little interest in that. I want to see how you hustle. That's more important to me than anything. Let me see you hustle. You interested, you want to do, yeah, brother, and we could do it. Yeah, well, let's see you do it. That's how we can get to know each other. Because I'll get to see what you're passionate about and what you have pure feelings and emotions about it, and see you in that space, and you'll get to see the same. And often that right there, that statement, or maybe someone might say that challenge will often reveal everything you need to know right there in the moment. If that person may have the potential to be family or not, or if they're just looking to, have a good time. And that's a whole nother conversation. Nothing's wrong with that either, but it's about being able to put situations and people in the proper perspective. But honestly, just spending conscious and deliberate time working and playing together is clear. It's a way to start to congeal when maybe you have a lack of that family history. Sometimes it's good to do your genealogy and share that information. Have that type of information to share. One of the key things as well, man, is knowing how to pull yourself in and other families in when there's problems or issues or challenges to be resolved in a familial situation. And I mean, sometimes you got to learn to be like a war chief, like a general, almost, in a sense, and it may not be a huge problem. Somebody needs to get somewhere or this or that, and you pull everybody into the mix, even the young children. Look, you go get the book bag, you go start the car, you go you go right through the list, and you start to get people. And when I'm saying people, I'm saying the small people and the large people. You start to get them into the habit of pulling together with mutual respect and mutual admiration and mutual empathy when someone is going through something inside of their family. So it begins to create that mutual tie of respect. And it shows, to certain family members that there's a clear effort to address the concerns of one another, right? These are simple things. It doesn't require any money to do them. Simple things. But, like I often say, that the simple things often can interweave themselves to become more complex situations or complex institutions. But that ability to attentively meet the needs of each other is key. And that's where you start to develop that stability. When you hear me talk about stability breeds stability, well, establishing familial or financial or emotional or mental stability in the family requires that degree of empathy, which of course requires a degree of listening, which I said earlier in the segment. One of the key things that many have trouble with, they have some challenges with, listening to one another, listening to family members, communicating in a way with each other that is honest and respectful. Sometimes it's really, really different, and it breaks down the resiliency of the commitments of each other, in terms of family. So that's when you have children, when they get older, they want to get as far away from you as they possibly can, because you haven't worked actively to fulfill, the respect requirements of each family member. Or you haven't been respectful of their concerns, or respectful of how they're feeling, or respectful of their thoughts, because there hasn't been a healthy modality of listening to one another. That effort has not been clear. And, the ways that you may communicate with one another, are not effectual because they're not healthy. You see? All of these things are very simple. Doesn't really cause any money. You don't have to take a trip back to Africa or wherever, to apply any of these things. We're not even going to the level yet of the empire. We're not going yet to the level of the kingdom at this point. We're still very basic. We're keeping it at the level of just some of the ways that you maintain the spirituality and really the identity of the family. See, what I spoke about earlier in terms of maintaining and holding those shared values and those shared mores, those shared principles, the shared doctrine among family members, is what happens is that it creates a unified sense of purpose, and it creates a unified sense of identity when you do those things. Now, if you look at it, when we look outside of your family for a second, and maybe look at the communities that you may be, that you may link yourself to, or you may feel that you're a part of. or that you're within. Let's look at it that way. Because a lot of times, like when we say community, there's different ways to look at that. Like we'll say the black community. And as you always hear me say, there's no black community. There may be spots where people live, but your community is not a place where people come to do commerce. That's not a community. Your community is where there's land ownership and there's business ownership on your part. Full land ownership and full business ownership. So if you live somewhere where you're renting an apartment or even paying a mortgage and all of the businesses around you are owned by people who are alien to your ethnic group, then that means that's not your community. That's just a big outside mall where people are coming to get money and make money off of you. That's not a community. If you think you live in a black town, go through that town and see how many of the businesses are black owned. Go to the main strip, and I'm not talking about the little barbershops, hair salons on the side. Go down the main drag where all the big business happens. If all those stores are not black owned, you don't live in a black town. All right. So just kind of keep that in mind. But like I was saying in terms of the idea of maintaining that common thought and that common purpose, even on a communal level, it exists and it begins first on a familial level. A lot of times, again, when we look outside, we say black community, like I was saying, and I know what you're talking about when you say it, so I'm not just being facetious about it, but just sometimes you want to look beyond the everyday colloquialisms, and you really want to look at the words that you're using and the meaning of what you're saying. And if you can recognize that community is a macro extension of the family, and all of the things that I just spoke about being necessary within the family, if they're not present in said community, then there's no community. Like I said, shared values, mores, and principles. So are we all using the same words for certain things? When we say money, finances, economy, or even family, do we have shared definitions? Even if those definitions expand multiple components, that's fine. Like if we said, our supreme being could be this, that. Maybe we might have 5 or 6 definitions. We may have several different spiritual communities that we recognize within our community. We don't all have to have the same quote unquote religion or the same quote unquote spiritual systems. That's not necessary in order for us to say we're a community. But each one would be recognized. Each one would be valued. Very similar within a familial structure. You may have one child who is, leans towards a certain spiritual inkling, and you may have another child that leans towards another spiritual inkling. But as the congealing parents, you make sure that their understanding sits within the bowl of your shared values and your shared principles. So you're valuing each other's thing for the most part. Like I can celebrate this child's Earth Day, that may be in May, and then I can celebrate that child's Earth Day that may be in December. And we can celebrate December and May the same. It doesn't necessarily mean that we're distended from each other. Or I can celebrate this child who's a child of Yemonja, and I can celebrate this child who's a child of Oba. We can both share in the celebrations of Oba, both share in the celebrations of Yemonja. You see. Now that's within a familial context, but again, to cultivate that mutual respect, that mutual honor, those mutual expressions of appreciation and devotion and dedication and empathy, on a micro level, we're speaking about the family, but again, of course, that has to extend out to a macro level within the community. And like I said, when those shared values, and the importance is put upon those shared values and principles and mores, you then now create a single unified identity for your family and a single, unified purpose for your family, which becomes, the strength of the family. Remember, I spoke about the shows on Unity before. I think I did a whole month on Unity. And I shared that, the strength of Unity comes from the empathy of its members. So strength is shared through empathy. When you're looking at a harmonic bond within a collective group, and that harmonic bond establishes unity, but the idea of the thought or the marching orders or the directives come down from the head, right? They come down from the head. The head, of course, in the family being the parents, coming from father to mother to child. Father gives the mother directives, directives gives the children, the mother gives the children the directives. That's the order of things. It's just how it is. Now, any one of those components are missing, you got a problem. Mother's missing, you got a problem. Father's missing, you got a problem. Hey, children missing, you got a problem. All are necessary, you see, in order to maintain the harmony, because there's a harmonic vibration that's necessary, right? Let's say if father's C, mother's D sharp, and the child is G. Well, you just hit a C minor third chord. But any one of those things are missing, then the chord doesn't resound with the same harmony that it should have. I might do a demonstration video on that one. I've always wanted to do a demonstration video to show harmonic value. To see how harmonics work out within the universe, but I never got around to it, actually. But maybe this will propel me to. So, going back again to the idea of purpose, the idea of identity. If you think about it, most often, many of us who come into consciousness, that is one of the first things that we have trouble with. What is my purpose? Who am I? What am I? What do I call myself? So we try to fabricate an identity. Sometimes we even fabricate a purpose. We just say, I'm here to help. Who? My people. Who's your people? I don't know. Right, because you have no sense of identity. It takes us back to the same thing all over again. And I guarantee you that's not your purpose either. You just, don't want to say that you don't have a purpose, that you don't know it. And again, that probably came again because those things weren't shared in your household. So you had no sense of, where do I go next? What do I strive to next? Where do I place my next foot down? Because, the connections to the divine weren't strengthened through my family relationship because the harmonic value was missing. You see? Yeah, I know it's not comfortable, man. I know it's not to hear it, and especially for those of you out there who identify themselves as single parents, which is a misnomer. Once you have children, you're never single. Sometimes I meet women, they say, "Are you single?" No. How could I be single? I have children. I'm always attached now. So I know it may be a little difficult to recognize that some of these tools may be necessary in order to build healthy families. If you're like, well, I don't have any of that stuff present that you're referring to, and a genealogy, where do I start there? And going back to my past with my children and visiting where I grew up and maybe have my first job and things like that. I don't feel comfortable doing that. But the thing is, your children need to see how their parents reacted to certain situations in life. How, they need to understand what you consider to be the highlights also of your life. Oh, I did my first performance, I was a cheerleader or this, and I did my first performance here, or, this, take your children to your old school, the football field. If you played football, you played basketball, whatever it is, where those highlights were, and let them see how you reacted to your triumphs. Let them see how you reacted to your adversity. And again, another simple way to do this, I know sometimes it's difficult for you all who are deep and conscious, but let your children go to their grandparents. Let them visit their family sometimes. You see, and then get some of those family stories. Let them get some one-on-one time with their elders. You really can't pay for that. I know a lot of times we put our children in different programs and things like that, but the memories that come from spending time with because the love that a grandparent has for a child, or even an aunt or uncle, is much different than parental love. They let a lot of stuff slide and things like that we get frustrated about. But honestly, sometimes children need those breaks. They need those stress days, But even something as simple as going to family reunions. Again, if your shared values and cultures are strong within your family unit, you don't have to be afraid about having your children around people who may not necessarily agree with your standing. The only time you have to be afraid of that is when you haven't instituted the proper mores and values into your children, because then that becomes their environment and their substantiating environment. And remember, your environment is always going to be stronger than your nature. So if they go to a family reunion for 2-3 days or for 1 day, you're not gonna destroy them. They'll get more out of it than they would not, just by sometimes asking, simple questions. Again, like I said, hearing about the triumphs and the diversities of members of their family. Maybe they had grandfathers or uncles who were in a war. Hearing about that, or maybe they were in a war and they were melanoid and they weren't allowed to fight. They had them cleaning latrines and working on the engines and stuff like that, and they can hear about that story and how they dealt with that. Hear about and that helps to strengthen their critical thinking faculties. You see, what would grandpa do? What would grandma do? Grandma used to have to clean toilets and do this and do that just so mommy or daddy could have something. I'm gonna go to the chat for a minute. Sometimes by the time I get to the chat, it's way past. But so let's see. Nicole Mass says, I'll go up. Designs Not Defined says, my son and I talk about my past so much, good and bad. I work in my old elementary school where he attends our rites of passage program. I think he is tired of my stories. Well, what about his father's stories? Switch them up, and then his grandfather's stories, grandmother's stories, aunt stories, go beyond, go beyond mommy. I'm sure there's a lot of content there. Nicole Mass says, both sides of my families have issues communicating and they hold secrets. It's not healthy. Yeah. Typical black families. It's always a lot of secrets present, but even within the secrets, a lot of times you still find sometimes your families have stories that they don't even know are good. They don't even know what they, I've asked certain things of elders, because sometimes, again, we don't value the elders that much. So, you ask them, like if you have elders who are 70, 80 years old, right? Real simple. I mean, especially maybe they were in the South. Some of them remember Jim Crow. They remember having to go through different entrances and using different water fountains and stuff like that. Just as simple as them saying, yeah, I remember that, and your children hearing that. And then the children looking at them now, well, wait a minute, but you're still here and you got a nice house, Grandpa. You got your little maroon Cadillac outside with the cream interior, and you got all these pins and buttons on your VFW hat. You seem like you're living a pretty nice life. You seem pretty comfortable. But you came from that? Your dad was a sharecropper? Sometimes they have stories, man, they don't even know how valuable they are. So you got to tap into them, man. You got to reignite and re-excite them sometimes in that sense, man. Michelle says, some issues nowadays is that even when we come to talk, the members in our family has so much unrecognized hurt and pain that conversations can turn hurtful and vindictive with no respect or desire to connect and understand. Well, depends on what you're talking about. You could ask something simple. Let's say if you have relatives who came from another country. What year did you come to this country? Came to this country in such and such, such and such. Oh, okay. Who was the president then? Do you remember? Where did you first live? What did you do? Doesn't seem that exciting, but for a child it is. Oh, I work, because maybe grandma's been a nurse, as far as that child always knows. Oh, I worked in a factory. You worked in a factory? I never knew about that, Grandma. What'd you do? I put together toys or something, whatever it is. But let them see the progression. Oh, I worked in the whole house. I used to clean up after the Johns, mop the floors and stuff. Oh, okay. Shoot, didn't know that. There's always something to tap into that in that sense, man. A lot of times, again, remember, we're supposed to be the deep ones. We're supposed to be the ones with higher awareness. So we're supposed to be the ones who know how to speak better than everyone else. Supposed to be. So keep that in mind, that you're supposed to be approaching the situation like a general. You're supposed to have that ability to, how do I approach Grandma? How do I approach Grandma? How do I approach my aunt, my uncle? In a way that's effectual. You see? That's supposed to be our ability. So let's see what else we got here. Designs not defined says, do men and women who share children, capital HAVE, capital TO, have to live together to function under that structure? Well, I need to understand when you say when men and women who share children. What does that mean, to share children? Because a grandparent and a parent can share children. Do you mean that men and women, or a man and a woman who are together? Are you saying, should a husband and wife, do they have to live together to function under that structure? Or are you speaking about baby daddies? See, I need to get some clarity on that question, because the way you worded that question lets me know that there's a lot more to that question. Even the fact that you capitalize have to lets me know that there's way more to that question. I know sometimes we don't want to reveal too much publicly, but sometimes we don't realize the way we ask things, we already revealed a whole bunch of stuff publicly. So you might as well just say it. Baby daddy. Right. So let's take all these words and throw them together. She just said baby daddy. Let's throw them together. So he said, do men and women who share children, capital, have capital two, live together to function under that structure? And then I asked him for clarity, what do you mean share children? And you said baby daddy. So we're using the word share and we use the word baby daddy. So, and then here we go. Okay, he gave more information. I have his child, but I don't want to live with him. So again, this is much bigger than the question that you're asking. You see, I'm going to give you an example. I'm going to answer the question. I'm going to answer it. But I'm going to give you an example of like how an unseasoned, untrained, unaware, fake teacher presents themselves. I can always tell, because they would have just went right in and answered that question using a lot of assumption, or a lack of listening, or a lack of empathy. I've seen that happen sometimes, even in a chat. Somebody asks me a question, and then somebody jump in and answer and be given the wrong answer because they're not listening to what's being said behind the question. So when I ask for clarity like that, I'll be honest with you, I'm already clear on what you're saying, but I want you to say it out loud, because I don't like to play those cloak and dagger games. You know, I'm speaking general, not just to you, Sister Designs Not Defined. So she says, I have his child, but I don't want to live with him. He's my baby daddy. We're sharing the children. Child, well, why'd you have a child with him if you don't want to live with him? Are you two together? Is this your man? Probably not. Of course not, because you have yet to call him your man. You called him, you said, we're sharing children. He's my baby daddy. I have his child, and I don't want to live with him. Right? So, sounds like just some guy you screwed and had a baby with. So, we're speaking about family. And like, remember I said earlier in the segment, just because you have a baby with somebody doesn't mean now you're family all of a sudden. You see? So that's what this sounds like. I mean, I'm wrong. You can let me know. But it just sounds like somebody you screwed. And I know you probably gonna say, no, we ain't just screw. We had a relationship. We were together. I know you're gonna say something like that. But you calling somebody your baby daddy and you just had a child and I don't want to live with them, doesn't sound like you have a real relationship with this individual. That's what it sounds like. Or the fact that you even called it sharing children. You didn't reference a family. You didn't reference any shared values. Again, you didn't reference any shared principles, any shared mores. So this doesn't really sound like a family. Now you don't want to live with them. So let the children stay with him. That would be the way you would do that. If you want to extract yourself from that situation, you give him the children and then you leave. I know that's the opposite of what we typically do in a society, but because what you usually do in a society is very harmful to the children, very harmful to the community. Usually the mother says, I don't want to be with him anymore, and I'm going to take my children and I'm out of here. And of course, she doesn't have the mental or emotional or usually even the financial stability, because of course the state will finance her. But she doesn't have stability in any of those areas to actually go and take those children and be effectual. Whereas the man can keep the children so that way that they're kept under the guidance that they need, and he can get 2 or 3 more women, because he can gather women to him more quickly who will help out with his children much quicker than a woman can gather a man who will help out with the children. So if he's just that intolerable and you don't want to live with him, then leave the children there and then you keep it moving. But it's kind of clear by the way you're describing this that this is not somebody you have any respect for anyway. So, I mean, this is clearly not a family that we're referring to. This is just somebody you had children with, right? So when you talk about that structure, right, what's required for that structure, when we say family structure, is that there's respect, and just in the way that you first referred to the guy. I don't know him. I don't know if he's any good, if he ain't any good. I don't know if you any good. You may both be raggedy. Who knows, but just by the way that you referred to him, even baby daddy, I could tell already, like, there's no respect there. So, conversations surrounding family may not be relevant to your situation, in all honesty, unless you all have, like, I don't even have to ask. I mean, I already know the answer to these, but I guess I'm going through it step by step, just, for your benefit. But I know you're not married, all right, because you would have said my husband. All right, so that's number one right there. You ain't married. So if you were married and you're saying this is my family and we raising these babies and blah 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 blah, then it will be, then some of the things that I spoke about will be a bit more applicable. But I kind of tell, like, okay, here we go. You just said, LOL. No, it's not a family, right? I see. Can't have that structure without all the components. Yeah. So it's like, it's a little different. I'm trying to be humane here, but you just had a baby with somebody. You just did some biological animal stuff. Basically, it's Animal Planet. You just, you just stripped off your clothes and you bumped your organs into each other. That's all. Organ upon organ. Organ upon organ. That's what you did, man. You put your organs inside of each other. So then, a baby came out, and now it's like, well, how do we do this? How do we do that? No, you didn't create that structure. Now, is the brother trying to be family with you? Is he saying let's do this thing right? Let's get it together, and you just don't like him? You only liked the way his penis felt? Or is he not interested in you in that way either? Like what's the thing with that? But and again, you can feel free to share. You didn't share that. We already know how jacked up your situation is now, so you might as well just open up. But don't worry, it's a bunch of jacked up people. All right, I told you I always know everybody's business on the chat and all that. But here we go. So Nikki Love 621 says, my son's father and I broke up when he was 1. I'm guessing you're thinking the son. Oh, you're talking about the son. It was rough the first couple of years, but as we matured, we left the egos at the door and came together to raise a really great young man. Okay. I hear you. But see, let me just say this. That's that ghetto stuff. I'm glad what you're saying. I'm not calling you ghetto, but I'm saying sometimes we do things and we don't realize how much, again, the child is missing. I dig what you're saying. We broke up, came back together. Well, obviously, probably maybe not as a couple, but we matured. But it's like there's years that went by, and the child's missing some key things. And sometimes it's because the child grows up and they look strong and they're handsome and they're in school or they went to college. We're like, oh, okay, we did a good job, but there's a big chunk that's missing. There's a huge chunk. Because here's something right here. Your son's father and you broke up. Now, I know you like Nikki Love. You probably like, damn, I wish I didn't even say anything. I didn't put anything in the chat for you to be dissecting my situation, Chief. Well, that's what's going to happen because that's what I do. In a situation like that, whose direction are you under? You see? So you break up with the father. I'm not saying you broke up. You two broke up for whatever dumb reason, and it was dumb, and you know that by now anyway, because like you said, it was ego. Anytime you break up and this is a brand new baby, some people break up when the woman's still pregnant. Or as soon as I've seen people break up the day the baby came out. So anything surrounding that is going to be a dumb reason. You already know that. But, sometimes we're too young when we have. That's why I always talk about men wait. Wait until your 40s or your late 30s, start having babies, man. Because, you're going to do dumb things up until then. But anyway, but yeah, so now whose directives is that child under? Now, we may say, well, he listens to his father, he talks to his father, but it's supposed to be disseminated through the mother. Not, here, get on the phone with your father and what's your father talking about. That doesn't work. So now you have an imbalanced child. They may look externally, he may be big and strong, got mustache and playing football and whatever else. So we say, no, he's a good young man. No, he ain't. He's broken. He just looks good on the outside. He's broken. Because the line and the chain of authority and the command has not been passed down to him properly. That's what I'm talking about when I say that's that ghetto stuff. A lot of times we accept certain things in terms of what we call family and what we define as family, or even we define as healthy children, and the children are broken. Like you guys. Most of you are broken. But your parents looked at you and said, yeah, she healthy. She doing good. She in nursing school. She doing good. But you know how messed up you are. And then you can think back to the things that your parents didn't give you that even at this point, maybe now you might be too embarrassed to talk about with them, or you don't want to hurt their feelings. You may wake up some dawnings and look in the ceiling in your bedroom and say, man, I wish my parents never split up. And it could be, you might be going back to thinking about something that happened when you was 5, 6, 7 years old. I wish my parents were still together. So nah, man, I'm saying that for everybody listening, because I notice a real sad tendency, and that's why I address these things directly. It's not that I'm trying to be mean, but there's a sad tendency sometimes to get other people to accept our lunacy. And what I mean by that is this: sometimes people will listen. I've seen this happen so much because remember that destructive energy is always present. So sometimes people will listen and they'll say, well, look, my mama, it was 10 kids. She raised all 10 of us. We turned out all right. And then somebody listening who's contemplating, I'm saying listening to this segment right now, who's in a marriage and contemplating leaving, will ignore everything I just broke down. We've been on the air now for 1 hour and 10 minutes. They'll ignore everything, and all they'll hear is somebody in the conscious community, and I knew, said, my mama raised all 10 of us by herself, and that we never wanted for nothing. And that's all they'll hear. So that's when I'll jump in and say, hold on, wait a minute. Nah, that wasn't right. That's not what we do. It's share your story. There's nothing wrong with that. But let's be clear. Like even Nikki Love, you did say, yeah, we had some ego. We had to mature and get ourselves together. And of course it's your son, so you're gonna say he's a really great young man. That's what mothers are gonna do. Of course you're gonna do that. Now, if I was sitting there talking to the boy, I'd say, man, something wrong with you, boy. Let me show you what's wrong with you. Let me lay it down how it's supposed to be, so that way you don't make the mistakes that your parents did. Break that cycle. You see? So that's what I'm saying. A lot of times I'll jump in and I'll say something, because you'd be surprised how many people want to do foul things who listen to these segments. How many and men and female. So I'm not just saying you sisters. I know you always think I'm getting, but a lot of y'all have leanings and inklings to the wrong thing. And if you hear something, you'll twist it and contort it. Like, you won't hear this part. I'm going to give you an example. My son's father and I broke up when he was 1. It was rough. You'll ignore that. She said rough. It was rough the first couple of years, and then just the other part you're going to ignore. But as we matured, we left the egos at the door and came together. That whole part you're going to cut out. And you're just going to say, you're just going to read, we matured and to raise a really great young man. I know how you guys listen. Not all of you, but a lot of you. And that's what I was talking about yesterday, where a lot of times, like, you hear me drilling things in, because it's that inkling to always do the wrong thing with a lot of people. So that they hear what they feel like hearing. They hear what supports their narrative. She's saying, no, it was the wrong thing, man. We broke up for something stupid. It was our egos. And I'm sure if she could have it any other way, they would have never have broken up, one, or they would have never have had that baby. She would have had it with somebody else. The egg was still in there. He was in there. She would have had that baby with somebody else, or she would have never have broken up. You see, so I'm just saying that's why a lot of times I'll address things, because I know people have this idea a lot of times that they're just looking for some verification or justification for things that they want to do that are harmful to themselves, their children, and the community. Okay, so let me go on through this. So Designs Not Defined said, our morals just don't match. During the organ bumping, morals were not discussed. My fault. Okay, so what you gonna do now, player? Designs Not Defined. What you gonna do now? She says, I was definitely raggedy too, young, dumb, and full of cum. Well, that's the phrase. Cum is all right. We can say cum. Designs Not Defined says, should individuals who are in a relationship stay together for the sake of the kids? Yeah. Even if the father doesn't provide directive, or if the mother doesn't direct the kids properly. Well, this is the problem, man. Too many people get deep after they have the baby. You done had the baby, now you super conscious. Oh, brother, I listen to Chief you ain't following directives, so we're gonna leave and take the baby. Hey, man, it's called meeting out the consequences of your actions. So now you're gonna rip apart this child's foundation because you ain't happy, because the brother ain't giving you no good game, and you saying the father doesn't provide directive. Well, does he have directions in him, or you just don't like the directions that he's providing? But again, here's the thing, and this is why I'm saying it's about to get ugly. It's about to get ugly. It's about to get ugly. All right. So if you want to get off and go get your dawning coffee, or go to work or whatever, go ahead. But I gotta say something. You need to hear it. I'm putting pillows behind my back, by the way. So This is why, sisters, you can't be the boss. This is why. Because this is what happens every time. You know, you are the sexual gatekeeper who has over 30 forms of birth control at your disposal. We got 2. Pull out condoms or sterilization. We got 3. We could sterilize ourselves. We could pull out. We wear condoms. You got 30. This is why you can't be the boss. Because, okay, you got with this guy. The sex was good. Whatever. And then you went through and even went so far as to have a baby. You didn't have to have a baby. You didn't have to. You get morning after pill. You could have aborted it. There are all kind of options. Could put it up for adoption. But you decide to go through and you decide to have the child. So you are already proving to us that you have poor decision-making ability. See, that's why when single mothers be up there ranting and raving, brother, you need to do it. Single mother can't tell me nothing. Shut the F up. You can't tell me. You've already proven to me where your decision-making ability is. Because what's the first thing you say when I say, well, what about the son? What about the father? Oh, he's raggedy. He ain't no good. He's still in love with the streets. He running the streets. He's locked up. So you went and laid down and had a baby with a loser. And now you want to tell me what to do? And I ain't never been a loser. Even when I was running the streets, I was winning. I ain't never lost. You can't tell me nothing because you've already proved that you have poor decision-making ability. You didn't just get smart and wise all of a sudden because you had a baby. You still the same knucklehead as you was before. So now you're going to make another dumb decision. I'm not talking about you, designs. Well, let me hear. I'm not talking to you, designs not defined, but I am talking about you. And all you other sisters who come at me with this stuff. You need to hear it, man. And like I said, it's going to get ugly. You need to hear it. I know you don't want to hear it. I know it doesn't feel comfortable. I know people don't talk to you like this. And you can always listen to some of these clown teachers. Ooh, I almost said a name just now. Yeah. You can always listen to some of these clown teachers that tell you a queen. You know, all of a sudden because you had a bunch of children, you a queen. Look at that. You a queen mother. You ain't no damn queen mother. Some of you are just sluts. Some of you just sluts. Just because you put a head wrap on doesn't mean now all of a sudden you're a queen. Come on, man. Get it right. So what I'm saying is that, you shouldn't be offended, Design Dance. You said I'm not defending. Yeah, I'm not trying to offend you. You know, I'm just speaking real talk because you know what I'm saying is true. I know you're not offended. You would have been offended already by now. The ones who get offended the most are not the ones who listen the most. Like you consistent listeners like Nikki Love and Designs Not Defined and Nicole, the 2 Nicoles. I'm missing one of my Nicoles though, so that's why I didn't give the Nicole who's present too much rhythm today. Because if her twin ain't here, I don't really mess with her like that. You know, it's a package deal. But you know, Marva, Michelle, you guys know. You know what I'm saying. So, you know, this stuff isn't new to you per se. You know, Sister Jennifer, it's the people who stumble across YouTube videos and say, what is he talking about? He's so rude. They don't get it. You know, but I know you guys know what I'm saying. And, you know, I'm not saying it to beat you down or to bash you or anything like that. I'm saying it so that you can wake up and come to some clarity. And I know that there's some very common statements that's said in the conscious collectives by a bunch of clowns, man. Those dudes are clowns. Real men like myself don't respect them. They don't respect them. We don't respect them. Any guy who would listen to your story and be like, yeah, you need to take those youth, man, and find yourself a righteous man. See, he's trying to get with you. Find yourself a righteous man to raise those children with because they shouldn't be raised on a Negro. Anybody tell you something like that? It's freaking clown, man. Because I bet you they wouldn't say that in front of your man. You see what I'm saying? Everything I'm saying right now, I'd say in front of your man. You can put him on the phone. I don't have a problem with that. And I bet you he wouldn't have a problem with me. I bet you he'd get off the phone and be like, yeah, you know, That's a real dude right there. Because I talk to a lot of you sisters. Know I've spoken to your husbands and your boyfriends. You know, because I speak truth, man. I'm not trying to coax, anything out of you or coax anything out of your household. But yeah, this is why you can't be the boss. Y'all make some of the worst decisions. And then after you had a baby, now you the deep one all of a sudden. No, you ain't deep. Now you conscious because you had the baby and he's not a good influence on the baby. And I just want to take my children, get out of here. No, you slick. I'm not talking about you, designs. I'm saying in general. I'm making general statements, but all of you listening know what I'm talking about. You've seen this a lot. And then what happens? What do you do? And let me, I'm not going to use her name, but I'm going to say, y'all going to know who I'm talking about. I ain't going to use her name. There's a woman that's in pop culture. I mean, she's not as popular as she used to be. That a lot of you conscious people, and I'm using that term, generally, you use the idea that you use this individual as a model, and you need to stop doing that. She has 3 different children by 3 different men. You already know who I'm talking about. And apparently she comes under certain conscious institutions. Right? I'm not going to say her name. There we go, Nicole. All right, so the other Cole, you back in my good graces. The other Nicole. I'm joking. But yeah, they come as a package. They twins. There's a third Nicole too, actually. Your triplet. She hasn't been around as much. And Nikki might be in Nicole actually. But so there might be y'all might be quadruplets. But anyway, so what I'm saying is that people have used her a lot as an example. Even on this show, people have brought her name up. I ain't gonna say her name, but 3 different children, 3 different dudes. Clearly, she's showing she can't hold down a relationship. And I know why she's doing it. She's even talked about polyandry before on the radio. All right. She's a clown. Y'all look at her like she's some sacred mystical goddess. She's not. She's a clown. And I know that's like blasphemous for some people. And some of you know who I'm talking about. I know you do. I'm not going to say initials. I'm not going to say any song titles because it's a singer. She's a clown though, man. Knock it off, L. Put your hand down, L. Jackson. But I've seen a lot of sisters use her as the model. A lot. And come to me with that. Like, yeah, because such and such. And she don't use her as the model. She's crazy. I love her art. And she's fine. She can get this work. She definitely can get this work. She's beautiful, she's creative, all of that other stuff, man, but she has the same sickness that a lot of you are still trying to get over, man. Trust me, she's got the same sickness a lot of you are trying to get over. And I've been around this person personally in the flesh. Real energy is real off. So what I'm saying though, you got to switch up sometimes your models a little bit, man. And I know sometimes, again, people won't say these things to you, or people who do say them, you think are hyper religious. Like, yeah, maybe the imam may say it, or, a Hebrew Israelite screaming on the corner might tell you, but I'm not coming at you like that. I'm saying you got to make some wiser decisions. You got to make some wiser choices, and the truth is, just because you had a baby and you read a couple books, a couple lectures, doesn't mean that you're more conscious now. And now you snatch the babies up and go do what you want. You're going to make a mess. And it always makes a mess because it's about customs and practices and principles. Start there. You might have a man who's a Christian. You might be a Muslim, whatever. That's why I wrote Solutions for Dysfunctional Family Relationships. Let's start getting into some combined and corporate familial rituals. Can we do a sun salutation? Can we meditate together? Can we do yoga together? Can we walk together? Can we jog together? I ain't into jogging with women, but but can we walk together? Let's go camping together. Whatever it is, but can we have some degree of family corporate rituals that we can do together. See, that starts to institute those corporates and practices, and it creates some shared values. You see, now when it's shared values of mutual respect and honor, which I know, and again, I'm not just saying, sisters, I want you to understand who I'm, because it was the sisters who asked those questions. I'm not negating the idiocracy of your mates. So don't think I'm doing it. I don't know them, except for the ones who I have spoken to. But I will say this. Now it's going to get ugly again. All right. So we're on a roller coaster ride. We about to go down a steep one again. Your idiocracy tells me your relationship history and your parental history. See, any woman that I've ever dealt, my women, even my exes, are a prize to the average man. Because there's so much that I've straightened them out on, which maybe they made them leave. I can't take this no more. But you know now, any man gets one of my exes is getting some value. That's why a lot of guys try to holler at my exes, hitting them in the inbox all crazy. Or the women that I'm currently with. Because I'm going to set them straight. I'm going to do what your father may not have done. Or what your ex did not do. Or exes did not do. See, that's why I don't like simpish guys, man. Because they create problems for the rest of us guys out here. You create hard-headed, rebellious women who don't know the basics. Don't know how to talk to people. Don't know how to keep a person as a friend or as a mate. They have no clue that any of those things exist. So when I see certain things that come out of certain sisters' mouths, or certain rudeness, or certain disrespect, or you don't know how to purport yourself, or you lack decorum, then you tell me I got a husband. I already know what you got. You ain't got no real man. I already know that. I already know your father was a weakling. Sometimes I'll say that to sisters. Yeah, your father you wasn't raised right. I could tell. You didn't get enough ass whoopings when you was a child. I can tell. You have no sense of consequence or discipline. Your father didn't whip your ass. Then when you went out into the world, you made sure you got with guys who was just as soft and it's just as pliable as your pops. But now you done hit the iron wall. So remember, we're reflecting one another in a certain way. You dig? We're reflecting one another like that. So sisters, as you go out, you're reflecting your man. And when you saying stupid things, or some of you get in the chat room, start getting rude, or trying to, throw little low key shots and stuff like that, I see what you're dealing with. I see what you've been with. And if I know that you've been with a bunch of scrubs, even on a relationship level, I'm not following behind a scrub. Get out of here. If you saying idiotic things out of your mouth, I know you're reflecting some man's idiocracy. Could be your pops, could be your ex, somewhere. Women that I've been with, they don't talk stupid. They don't talk dumb. Even if we're not together anymore, they got the basics. They definitely got the basics. A lot of sisters I got with when I first got one, they couldn't even cook. They didn't know about herbs. They didn't know about healing. That's some of the first questions I always ask sisters. Let me give you one here for some of the brothers. I always ask this question. When they say, I'm a good woman. And then I'll say this, okay, if I have a headache, what would you do to help me? If I tell you to go lie down, make you some tea, whatever you need me to do, put a cool rag on your head, she's out. Well, I don't want to say she's out, but I know I got some work in front of me. And if I say, well, what about this, that, if I mention some herbs, then I look at how she responds. If she's like, oh, wow. Well, yeah, if you told me to get that herb, if she responds like that, instead of saying, oh, wow, I didn't think about that. Thank you. Yeah, I got to look into that. Now I know I'm dealing with some fertile ground. If she says, well, I didn't even think about no herbs. Or she says, get you a Tylenol or something. Nah, we good. I'm good. I'm all right. Thank you. Thanks, but no thanks. So any sister I've been with has gone through the boot camp, the Anu boot camp, So this is what I'm saying sometimes, man, with some of you guys too, man. You turning out some monsters into the world. How are you dealing with your daughters? Are you teaching them these things about femininity and womanhood, about right choice making, about modeling, going beyond their emotions and what feels good in a relationship and looking at the logistics of things? Are you approving or disapproving their mates for them and letting them see that your disapproval is paramount to everything? You can't bring someone around here I disapprove and think you're going to keep moving, because I will disown you. See, I know we don't talk that language in the Western field. I tell my children, yes, you can get disowned. I'll make more children. You're not that important. So don't think you're just going to do certain things and, oh, well, Baba, I want to marry this one and I want to marry my dog or whatever. And I know there's a lot of people listening and say, oh, my God, that's so unloving. Yo, listen, this is the way we do things, man. I'm an African man. This is how we do things. I'm not American. I'm not Western. All right, so you got your way of doing things. You got your culture. We have our culture. This is not a new thing. My daughter come home with some nonsense. Yo, don't come back here anymore. But Baba, nothing. I'll make another daughter. It's just that simple. So don't think your love allows you to cross and trespass any line of decency. Don't think your love allows you to violate. Now you may say, but this is my life and I came down for my own purpose. You're absolutely right. You're right. And this may be the consequence for it. We all have to sacrifice something in order to live out our purpose. You may have to sacrifice your family. Okay, cool. But you're not going to violate this legacy. I don't have to accept any and everything. See, that's what America teaches you. You gotta accept everything. And if you don't, something's wrong with you. Even if it's harmful to you, you gotta accept it. Nope. No way. Anyway, let's go back to this. So the last question I read was, should individuals who are in a relationship stay together? And Nikki Love agreed with what I was saying. She said something. Oh, we speak to him on the real. On the real. Like you mentioned in the beginning. Here, she said, here, I was young and raggedy, as Chief said. She's acknowledging, And then last one I read was, should individuals who are in a relationship stay together for the sake of the kids, even if the father doesn't provide directive, or if the mother doesn't direct the kids properly? Well, you the woman asking, so direct your kids properly, your children properly. But if to stay together for nothing else, for financial stability for those children, familial stability, even if that, no, man, stop looking for an excuse. I'm not saying you are, but for an excuse to shirk your responsibilities. You sleep with somebody, you have a baby, and then now you go to every conscious teacher asking how you can get out of the situation. What does Ifa say? I think I should leave. I don't feel safe. No, I'm not doing that reading. Get out of here. Here's your money back. Should have thought about that before, man. And this is why I say, fathers, you got to cover your daughters, because females are the worst decision makers, man. And they'll hurt themselves. They'll make decisions that they'll regret for a lifetime. And at some point, they'll look at their pops and say, why did you let me do this? Because they don't like to be accountable. But Sasha says, women who agree with this usually are called brainwash. When you agree that women are making bad decisions or being responsible when they pop children for any and every man that comes their way, by you, I mean as a woman agreeing with that thought. Yeah, I get it. Yeah. A lot of times when you have anytime you have a sister who a lot of times agrees with a strong man, she's brainwashed. Or the D must be good. Oh, he must got a big D, girl. He must be putting it down, girl. He must got money, girl. Let me see what he look like, girl. I told you, when you start to wake up into your real enlightenment, people will see you as the abnormality. People will see you as the aberration. They'll be offended by the truth that you bring to the table. Just like if I speak truth and I have a particular ability to articulate truth, I'm called angry. And I can articulate it calmly. As you notice, I don't get hyped like that. I don't be yelling and screaming and using profanity and going off. But if we say something like, if someone says, hey, why don't you celebrate Christmas? And I say, no, it's not something I celebrate. It's, it's against, it's not my tradition. And somebody says, why not? Christmas is fun, man. It's just about family coming together, man. It's not about all of the other stuff. And then you say, well, let me share some information with you about Christmas. And let's say if you take 5 minutes and break down what Christmas is, people will look at you like you're angry. Whoa, okay, all right. I just asked you about Christmas. You see, those are all tactics. And then you'll start feeling insecure. Like you'll question yourself. Well, am I coming off angry? Because I just, no, you're coming off intelligent. And people a lot of times are afraid of intelligent people. Or they're offended by the truth that you're able to bring to the table. Doesn't mean that you're angry. You're articulating. So yeah, a lot of times, same thing with women. Women say, listen, we got to get our stuff together. It's very easy. We could spend the next, because we've been doing this since the 70s, blaming the guys. We could spend the next 40 or 50 years blaming the guys. But at some point, and it's like, Shahrazad Ali used to say, what portion are you willing to be accountable for? What percentage? If we know that, if we say, well, it makes two to make a thing go wrong or whatever, how much of the percentage are you willing to be accountable for the way the community looks today, for the way families look today? I've asked women that directly, and they've told me zero. Those conversations echo and reverberate in my head. I've asked women before, even who were in relationship after relationship crumbling, and I say, well, do you think there's anything that maybe you may have done wrong? No. Just like that. That's an insane person. I don't want to talk to you anymore. You're insane. Same way I talk to the men and say, come on, brothers, we got to get it together. And I may say some things that don't sound good to your ears or may feel uncomfortable. But we have to be accountable. Well, it's no different from the sisters, man. There has to be some greater systems of accountability. Like you say, I have the child and, now I'm conscious. He's not conscious. Should I just leave? Should I just stay here for the kids? Have some empathy. Some of you, your empathy gene never kicked in. Some of you are real cold-blooded. Cold-blooded. You think about the science of the dragon and the science of the witch. The Aj. It's not about compassion and emotion. I keep telling y'all, man, a lot of you guys got what a woman is twisted. You better stop looking at them Catholic pictures of Mother Mary. She's so loving and she's just... That's not really women. Women are cold, man. They do what's necessary for survival. They're cold. The concept of a gold digger. You think about that. Or hypergamy. A woman who mates and she always mates up. Even women are smart enough when they cheat to cheat up. Only men cheat down. Or foolish women cheat down. Foolish females cheat down. She'll be married to a millionaire and she'll go sleep with the pool guy. That's what an idiot will do. Average woman and a wise woman, she'll cheat up. She'll be with the pool guy. She'll come one day to help him at work, see a millionaire. She'll sleep with the millionaire. Worst come to worst, my pool guy boyfriend breaks up with me. I got the millionaire in my pocket. Guys, I mean, come on. You already know how that goes. That's a part of our evil. That's our evil. We could be married to Rihanna. And we'll go sex RuPaul. Tyler Perry. Tyler be looking at Tyler kind of thick. Tyler, Medea, you ever see the Medea movies? Yo, Medea kind of thick. That's the male insanity when your sexual imperative gets distorted like that. You know, and somebody say, but you have Rihanna at home, and you know, Rihanna sometimes didn't even mind you bringing. You know, sometimes she would bring other women home for you, and 3 of y'all can have a good old time. I know, man, but I was driving home and I just, man, I saw Medea and I don't know, man. I don't know what, I lost it. She was throwing it at me. You know, that's a guy though, right? Yeah, man, but I don't know, man. I was just bugging out that night, man. I was wilding. See, that's the male sickness. So it's real. You know, we all have that thing to be accountable for, you know, and we have to get those things under control. Our sexual imperative under control. Look at the mess that we make a lot of times because the sexual imperative is not under control in that sense. You know, I'm just looking through here. Nikki Love says it's the effects of the BS feminism that we were exposed to. Yeah. But always look, why were you exposed to feminism? And why is it that you grabbed onto those concepts and didn't say from the beginning, this is some BS? Think about that as well. You know, I had a friend, well, we're still friends. He called me some years ago. He had a son. His son didn't always live with him. His son lived with his mother, and around 14, he let his son come live with him and his wife. And they had 2 babies. Yeah, 2 babies at that time. Well, a small baby, and then he had a little older daughter. And long story short, he found his son was looking at a lot of porno. Now, they're Muslims, by the way, but they were son was looking at a lot of porno. And I was like, all right, well, you know, he's young, man. He's 14, man. He's just starting to, you know, get wet dreams and stuff like that. That's going to happen, you know. And it's so accessible now. And he was like, yeah, but something's off here, man. He said he's looking at transsexual porno. And I was like, okay, well, you know what? Chances are, before he moved in with you, he was already looking at quote unquote regular porno. And that's how it goes with porno. Like, you always got to top the last thing. You know, that's why you look at porno through the ages from the 60s up until today. It's like, even black women, you know, we were talking about that, my youth and I, yesterday, actually. You know, how I was sharing a difference with them, like how girls were when I was in high school back in the days, and some of the things that they did and didn't do, which you would even hear in the movies. I mean, not in the movie, I'm sorry, and in some of the music, you know, but some of the things that, like, they'd be like, I'm going to do this, but don't tell anybody I did this. Or they want all the lights out before they did certain acts. I think y'all probably know what I'm talking about. But nowadays it's like standard foreplay to do certain things. So, you know, it changes, it ups. And so I was telling him, I said, you know, your son probably was already looking at things, but then this is what it turned into. So we put this, you know, a monitor. He was like, man, I know you're good with the computers. I need to put some type of monitor on it so I can see what websites he goes to. And we put also a keystroke app on there so we could see what he was typing as well. You know, we did some real I Spy stuff. So, you know, it would also show us, you know, how long he was on each site. So this young man, he started really like getting into a lot of the sadist stuff. You know, women being beat up, spit on, gagged, choked. And that's the only stuff that he was interested in. But like at 14. So he graduated from the transsexual stuff to the straight up, you know, I don't even call that domination, but the masochistic stuff. And the first thing I told him, I was like, look, man, I was like, I know you don't want to hear this right now. I know it doesn't feel good. Because he started he was like, I don't want to bring it up to, I don't want to embarrass him. I was like, nah, don't do that. You know, so what he started doing, he would grab these pictures of like different women online and stuff. And he said, hey man, come here, check this out. Look at the size of her butt. Check this out. And he said, man, like I would show him stuff like, he's like, has no interest. You know, I said, well, maybe he doesn't want to look at, you know, a big booty girl with, you know, he doesn't want to look at Buffy the Body with his father. That could be it, you know. But I said, you know, this is something you're not going to want to hear, but you're going to need to hear it. He can't be in your house anymore. Like, you're going to have to work with him, but you're going to have to separate him from your little girls. Because clearly we see that it's not about, like you were saying, the feminist thing. It's a feminist BS, yeah, but what is behind that makes it acceptable? So it's not just about that the young man was watching this stuff and staying on it. He's like, man, he was on this site for like 45 minutes. And then he would clock how long he was on like the quote unquote regular porno site, looking at just the regular thing, be like 2 minutes, you know. I said, clearly there's somewhere in there, you know, he's got some form of disdain for females. If you're seeing the type of stuff, he goes from transsexual stuff to women getting beat up. That's it. That's what he likes to watch. You don't know if he's masturbating or if this is just what he likes to watch. But you got him around, I want to say 3. He had that 2 or 3 little girls. But I said, you got him around your girls. At least I said at the very least, he can't be alone with your daughters. And I know this is your son and this is your blood and all of that. And I know it's a hard thing to hear, but you're going to have to hear it, man. There's something behind this. And you may not know what was going on with his mother, you know, those years that because she had kept, it was a whole long thing, but she had kept him from him. You know, it was a real crazy kind of thing, but he was paying child support, but she was telling him that the child was not his. But the courts, you know how the courts do with that, you know, if your name is on the certificate. But she was, I don't even get into all that. But either way, he wasn't in his son's life for a couple of years. And then when finally he was able to be in his life, he went all out. He was like, you gonna move in with me and we gonna, you know, he was so happy to have him finally. And I said, he can't be there, man. This is a disaster waiting to happen, man. He's either going to start, you know, and he was like, you know, and I noticed my wife is uncomfortable around him. I said, he probably said something to your wife or displayed some type of behavior that your wife doesn't even want to tell you because everyone knows you're so happy to have him in your life now. But I said, why would she be uncomfortable? Or something's up. Something happened. Or something was said, or she might have caught him with his dingling out one day walking into the apartment, you know, looking at some transsexual porn or something. So sad to say, yeah, he did remove him. And I said, but you know, just be super present. You know, I said, but you're going to have to talk to him about it, you know, and really start to figure out. And I said, you know, you need to find out and I said, you can't bring him back to his mother, but find out what happened with his mother. You know, something happened in there where, because, you know, he probably has a disdain for her. Maybe she touched him, which is common. Or, you know, maybe it's just something about her nature. Or maybe he has a chemical imbalance. You know, it might be something self-generated. Or here's a real easy one. He didn't have his pops growing up. He was told that somebody else was his pops and then later told that wasn't his pops. So maybe he's pissed off at his mother for doing that, you know, or just maybe not having your chemical element in his life. This is where I say it takes 2 to make a child, but it takes those same 2 to rear that child because there's a chemical correspondence with that child. You know, that's why it's very difficult even being a step parent a lot of times. You don't have that chemical bond with that child. Like the father would or like the mother would. You know, you don't know what you're looking at. You might be looking at a time bomb. Like I said, this boy gonna do something one day. I kept telling him, I said, you know, you got those 2 daughters and he's probably seen, you know, how nice your life is. You got a decent job, pretty wife and all that. He might be upset behind that. You know, you got to actually talk to your son at this point, man, because this woman finally gave you your son after he was damaged goods. That's the truth of it. He was damaged goods. So here, you take him now. I don't know what to do. You know, she probably knew he was doing all this stuff, but she ain't gonna tell you that. You know. So yeah, like you said, it's the feminist BS, but again, sometimes we have to look at, you know, what in us is accepting of that. Like I said, it's that evil that's always present. So we may be in a conscious space, but then there's something that makes us say, I can accept this. I can get with this. Feminism. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. These men ain't no good. Yeah. Da, 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 da. And then you start creating this fake narrative. When were you oppressed by black men? When did we have the chance to do that? We can't even do that now. We say something against you, you call the cops and we get locked up, regardless of what. We might even get killed. So that's just not your narrative. But what in you? Is it because the oppressor has planted their mind in you? Because I told you the best way to control the people is to give them your mind. So now when they start talking about feminism, that mind that is now in control of you, that's not your own, but the alien that the controls is saying, yeah, that's your story. And then of course you got reasoning capabilities that say, wait a minute, but you should, yeah, it's your story. So now when an intelligent man says, wait a minute, how is that your story? How were you getting oppressed and goes through it? At a certain time, you got the welfare, the Section 8, the WIC, and all these things. And I had to be removed from the house. I couldn't be there. How is that your story and then what happens? You respond with hyper emotionalism to take control of the argument. All of that is planned, man. The flim flam. It's all planned. So Sister Marva says, yes, Chief, and I appreciate the corrections. That is why I have my granddaughters and grandson listen to your lectures, and they have asked questions. They would be like, Granny, what time will Chief be on? Good. Get them, get them right now. I mean, I don't know how old they are, but whatever age, get them right now. So they don't have to end up going down some of the roads that some of us went down that created so much pain in our lives. Designs by defined says, wish I had made better choices. Yeah. At least you know that the choices were off. That's a plus. That's a huge plus. Remember, time is cyclical. It's not linear. So it's not about, I wish I had made better choices and now my life is screwed up. It's about changing the mentality. Because remember, it's a cyclical thing. You can start to reconstruct your reality and reconstruct your world by reconstructing your perspective of the choices. That's where you get that real growth. Where have the choices led you? You probably wouldn't be listening to this show if you didn't make those messed up choices. Which is now leading you to your purpose, leading you to your identity. Remember, time is I shouldn't say cyclical. It's spherical. It's moving, in a spiral fashion. You see? So you don't have to go back and, I wish I could rewind time. You don't have to do that. You're going to come to those opportunities again. It goes in a spherical fashion. Michelle says, that is why knowing your life purpose is critical. Yep, it is. She says, my pops was too emotional and drunk most of my life and absent in my younger sister's life. The last conversation we had, I finally told him how much his drinking affected me and my sister. Good. Sometimes that's rough, having those conversations with our elders, letting them know that you weren't really much of an elder. And, sometimes you have to look at your parents and say, well, listen, man, am I here? Am I healthy? Am I alive? All right, well, you did it, player. Maybe some parents, that's all they're good for. All they good for is making sure you got here safe. I mean, and I'm talking about your conception and your birth. That's it. Everyone has their drop-off point. Some drop off earlier than others. Some can make it through the conception. All right, I'm gonna give you some good sperm, which is gonna give life to this egg. Cool. Eggs, it's gonna form. We're gonna have a healthy baby, and then I'm going back to the bottle. Sometimes that's what it is, man. Every parent has their own capacity. That may be the greatest thing your father ever did in his life, is make you and your siblings. That might be all he had in him, is to be able to do that. Tareem says, my son was exposed to different things, like was exposed to porn and gay lifestyles, and I saw it on him. That's one of the main reasons I brought him under me permanently until he reached manhood. That's the same thing happened to me my family when my child was 9. It's all good now though in his life, and he has made a complete turnaround. And I caught him early. Of course you did, Tareem, because you're the man. See what I'm saying? That's why you turned your son around, because you're the man. You're the sun. You're the light. That's why I tell you a lot of times, man, you know, you sisters want to up and leave the children with the father. They're going to still have that direction there. You know, because remember, he's the ultimate umbrella covering. So yeah, they're skipping a level of the umbrella, but at least they're getting their directives, their high directives and orders. It's healthier. So yeah, Tarina, yeah, you're going to turn that around, man. That's what men do. We're fixers. We're problem solvers. You see? And that's not a knock against women at all. I want y'all to understand that. I'm not saying, you know, you can't raise no kid, because listen to what I said earlier in the show. If any component of that formula is missing, there's going to be a problem. But when all else fails, go to the source. The closest thing you have to the source in your family design is your man, because that's the authority, the author. You let these conscious clowns fool you if you want. You everything. You the goddess. You the this. Man, don't listen to them homo. I don't call them homos, but don't listen to them suckers, man. They're lying to you. Most of them don't even have families to be talking that mess. Don't listen to them. They're gassing you up because of this simple reason. They know the main people who support them and come out are the women. They're pandering to you, just like the preachers do. Just like Steve Harvey with his, let me not talk about him, but just like a lot of people. They're pandering to you. They're giving you bad advice. They're giving you bad guidance, man. Yeah, the black woman is God. You know how the black woman is God? Because when you a baby and you cry out for food, who do you cry out to? It's your mother. It's not your father family. It's your mother. It's the black Nubian goddess family. Look here, Jack. When a baby raccoon is hungry, the baby raccoon crawls over to his mother's tit. Is the raccoon woman goddess? When the rat is hungry, it's just a biological function. And that's why you had wet nurses back in the days. So is the wet nurse your God? See, we got to go beyond some of this stupidity, man. You know, like some of these people are just dumb, and then they have low IQs, and then some of the people listening have low IQs. Raise your IQ up, man. This is more complex than that. She's able to create sperm inside of her, so because she's able to create sperm, she's actually a complete being. When's the last time you seen a female who had a baby by herself? I mean, get out of here with that, man. See, that's what I'm saying. When you're dealing with an Anu or an indigenous perspective, you'll never have one half of the population negate themselves like that. That's some Western stuff. It's got to be this or it's got to be that. No, God has no gender. God is all. If you want to use that term, God. So what's all? Everything. You're all. I'm all. You see? Your children are all. Your home is all. Your car is all. All that is coming to perceive reality is all. There's your God. Your God has manifested itself through various vehicles of manifestation and condensation. Your bottle of liquor is all. You know, even look at the word alcohol, right? Coming from the Arabic, alcohol. Al, A-L. You already know. I broke this down 5 million times. I ain't doing that one again. What you know what Al, L, the. What you already know what that means. Kuhal, spirit. You see? Even your alcohol, or later alcohol, is divine spirit. That's the all, man. That's the all. So, a lot of times people have this perception, man, that, this has to be God or that has to be God. And they're creating this distance and separation between themselves or yourself and the divine. And that's not the case. Your children are divine. Your children are part of the all in all. You are part of the all in all. And that's what says sometimes when we put that's what I was saying earlier, like when we say the universe, we create this conceptual and mental separation between ourselves and it. Universe, source, all. Like we don't say the Olodumare or the Shango. We say Olodumare. We don't create that separation. We already know we don't have to really deify because it's already deified. But when you're speaking a language that takes the romantic or the spiritual or temple or divine subcontext out of the word, then you have to re-deify it. We're talking about English. English is like so inadequate. The majority of the time to actually make an expression. English is so inadequate. Because it extracts the spirituality out of most terms. Until you actually learn what the words mean, This is why they call alcohol spirits. Because of its original wording, alcohol. Kuhul. Alkuhul. You see? So you separate yourself from the divine aspect in that sense. Man, it's all divine. It's all divine. And there's a certain flow, there's a rhythm that the divine flows through for creation. When you look at the science of family, how family is formed, you're seeing exactly how the divine creates. And you can read your creation stories and understand that. Just look at the elements that are present when it's creation. Like, there's many forms of the Yoruba creation story. That's what I told you guys before. That's how creation is still happening right now. It didn't just happen. Like Ife is still being created. But one of the forms of the story is Olorun and Olokun were present first. Very similar to your Nut and Geb in Kemetic structure. But Olokun represented the water and Olorun represented the sky. Now I won't get into that yet, and then Obatala descends down on a chain with a black cat and a hen. I know you guys didn't hear that one too much, right? So there's a lot of creation stories. You usually just hear about Orunmila coming down on the chain or Oduduwa coming down on the chain. There's water. He comes down on the chain, drops the sand, out of the snail shell, and then the hen scratches and creates valleys and hills, and that's usually what you hear. There's other forms of that story. Well, what is Olorun? Olorun, knowledge, wisdom, and understanding of the sky or of the harem or of heaven. So that represents transcendence. What is Olokun? Olokun is your subconscious. So we have my transcendental mind and my subconscious mind. That was present. And then Obatala came down on a gold chain. Well, what is gold? Alchemy. Enlightenment. Enlightenment descends. You see? So you find that even when you look at I don't get all into story. You find that even when you look into the stories, you see that when you're dealing with indigenous stories, it doesn't separate the stories of even creation from the way and the modalities that you utilize. Earth is present. Air is present. water is present. The hen scratches, fire is present. All of those things are present in the conception of a child. I'm telling you, man, some of this stuff is simple. It's right in front of your face. It's right in front of your face, and I'm telling you, man, you're missing it. It's right in front of your face. Not all of you. I know a lot of you get it, but it's right there. Design's Not Defined says heartbreaking when you think of it from the perspective of what your parents did/didn't give you. Yeah, man, your parents were in a jail, and you were born in a jail. How much you gonna give somebody when you over here dipping and dodging and trying to make moves inside of a prison system that we call America? Diana Williams says, I wish I was not so stupid to think I knew it all and had to stop to listen when my elders was given direction. You wasn't stupid, you was dumb. You just didn't know. That's all. You didn't know that you were supposed to listen to your elders, so don't get down on yourself. You wasn't stupid. You just were dumb to the truth. Now, you're open to it. No one told us that elders were that important. We didn't grow up in structures like that. No one told us that spirits were that important, that family was that important, children that important. Only thing we were told was, go to school, get a good job, get a city job. You never get fired from a city job, and you get all the Jewish days off. People gave you the best of what they could, and you got to stand on their shoulders and keep moving forward from there. But always keep in mind that you picked those parents. You picked what you were not gonna know. You picked the wrong things that you were gonna be exposed to before you came to the planet. You picked your Negro parents. You picked your staunch fire baptized parents, or your Muslim parents, or your parents who just parented by non-parenting, by not even being present. There's a value and purpose for it all. It's all spiritual. Spiritual, not spiritual. I knew what I was saying. Spiritual. Anwar says, sexual guidance was absent in my development. I've had conversations with my sons so they can be comfortable with themselves and have a healthy view of sex. Yeah, that's good. That's good because, men really need to talk to their boys about sex, because remember, sex is the power of the woman. She's developing that understanding from a very young age. 2-3-year-old girls be flirting when they want something. They know how to bat their eyes and look cute and swing their feet and all. They're very aware of their power at a very young age. Boys still just, peeling off scabs and climbing trees. So you got to have those talks with them, absolutely, man, or they end up getting wiped under by some of the dragons they end up meeting. Design's Not Defined. What is defined as high directives and orders? Is that relative to the individual family? Well, your high directives and orders, again, are going to come from your man. It's going to come from the authority of the creator. Check out the shows that I did on authority to understand that. When you want to, but it's about authority. You see? So what is the ultimate family mission? What are we doing here? And again, if none of that stuff is, again, in your situation, it's a little difficult. See, this is what I'm saying. We have to come up with new solutions for the situations that we're in. I know it's tempting to just start applying stuff. Just like, again, when we use that whole black woman is God. What black woman? Them chicks fighting on World Star? Ripping off each other's weave? That's God? Nah, man, I don't want that God. Give me a different God. What else you got? Shuffle the deck. So when you speak about that, in that sense, designs, you have to look at it again within the context of family. If you don't really have a family, which it doesn't sound like it by what you described earlier, then it may be difficult, because I don't know if you necessarily respect that man or his authority, and if that's not the case, then some of that may not necessarily apply to you. That's where we get into sisters who say, well, I listen to myself. I listen to my own Ori. You'll get into some of that type of action, which is always a woman without instruction is headed for self-destruction. Let me just put it that way. You're going to crash into a wall with that crap, which is really just a veiled third layer feminism. That's all that is. When I hear that, I listen to my higher self. I go inside. That's third layer feminism. I hear it. I know what you're doing. You'd rather go listen to you listening to your emotions because you don't even know how to listen. If you can't listen to a person speaking to you in the physical without being hyper emotional, or listen without listening through your emotions, listen to logic, then how the heck are you listening to your higher self with clarity? It's bullcrap. It's total bullcrap. When I hear that, I just kick them along. Get the F out of here. Kick them along. So when you say defined as higher directives and orders, man, it comes through authority. Is that relative to the individual family? Yeah. But I don't think you have a family, so it ain't gonna matter for you. You're not receiving those orders. Now, you may say, well, I don't think he's getting those orders from God or something like that. It's not really for you to decide like that. If you respect the individual, you see God, and that's it. Like I tell women all the time, don't talk to me about the truth that I have. F that. I don't care about you thinking I speak the truth. I am the truth. And if you can't see me as the truth, then this isn't going to work. This ain't going to work. Because you're still going to be looking for me to submit. You're still going to be looking for me to submit to something. And you shouldn't be looking for your man to submit to anything. I know, hard concept. I know. So Design says, I was really referring to with my own father as a child. I should be more clear. Are you still under the covering of your own father? And it doesn't matter. It's the same thing applies that I just said. But do you consider yourself under the covering of your father, or under the covering of the man that you were saying earlier that you had a child with? Because if you're under the covering of the man that you had a child with, then that relationship, as far as that taking directives from your father, that's out now. That's over with. You take directives from your husband, but again, it doesn't seem like you have any of that. And I don't know. See, this is that nasty, sloppy stuff. Because then I got to say, well, what's the relationship like with your father and this man, this guy? Are they a part of the same community? I'm sure they're not. I already know. I mean, we know what this is. Are they a part of the same community? Do they respect each other? Does your current, well, he's not even your husband, he's your baby father. But if he was your husband, does he see your father as a community authority? Because of course that your father is now his father if y'all are actually married. So that means the line would go from your father to him to you, to the children, or to the child. But I'm sure none of that is in place. So we just, see, a lot of times when we start to apply these ancient truths and principles to our raggedy American, Black Americanized situations, then we validate these stupid situations. That's why when y'all call in, I know y'all think I'll be messing with you, but I'm not. When you call in with those questions like, okay, so in replace of, or in light of, if I don't have a man in my life, what do I do? No, we not going, stop. We not going any further from there. This doesn't apply to you. It won't work. And we're not going to validate something that doesn't work because you want to stay in sickness. We can't validate your sickness. So we have to back up. You see what I'm saying? And again, I'm not saying that to be mean, or if you ain't got no man, you ain't nothing. Or if you ain't got no woman, you's a faggot. I'm not saying that. Trust me, it's not that crude. But the highest and the best things in the universe don't apply to you. They ain't for you until you get some of the baseline things. Like I told you before. I've shared this. I know one end out the other because nobody wanted to hear this, but I said, when we start talking about Orisha sciences and Ifa, and we talk about the stories and things like that, you notice with none of the Patakis do you really hear anything about children. And what I mean is this ain't like Harry Potter. where you get all these adventures of teenagers. It's men and women speaking and getting counsel from Babalaos. You see, and very rarely do you have men and women actually in patakis. Usually you have different divine energies, but they're called by their path names. So a lot of times you think they're talking about people, but they're talking about different components and paths of the Orisha. But this information is for adults. It's for matured adults. It's not for children. So some of the stuff that you seek to apply won't apply to you if you're not living as a matured adult. When we start speaking about some of the values of Oshun, or some of the values of Oya or Ogun or Shango, those are for adults. That's who the guidance is speaking to. When we speak about so-and-so had a farm and went to, like if we speak about women, for instance, a grown woman in a pataki, there's already an assumption that that grown woman has a family. Justin asked about, what about foster and adopted families? No. It's not the same. Ain't the same. Now, you already know, Justin. You know the missing component. All right. Oh, that's what Diana was asking. What about, I guess y'all both are asking, foster or adopted families? It's not the same thing. Now, am I saying that if you adopt a child or you're, let's just say, I mean, because again, we're using Western terms. Foster children. What the heck is that? I fostered this child. What the heck is that? Again, you have to take yourself out of the sick paradigm sometimes, objectively look at it and say, okay, what is this actually? You see, I have some youth that are not biological. That's why I always say, people ask how many children you have. Hundreds. You see, hundreds. But I do know the difference. From a blood standpoint, because the blood is important. I know the difference. You see, so we can't get a bunch of foster children and say this is my family. It ain't your family. Where's the pops? Now you may have, you and your husband may say, we're going to adopt some children, we're going to this and that, and we're going to claim them as our nieces or our nephews or our sons or daughters. That's perfectly fine. But again, have you established the divine line first? That's what I'm saying. Sometimes we're trying to find shortcuts to get out of it. And I've heard this a lot. I mean, I'm not saying that you're saying it, because I know you, Sister Diana, you're married. So I know your situation. So understand when I'm talking, a lot of times I'm speaking generally. I'm not speaking just to the actual person. But I know you're a married woman, but what I'm saying is that a lot of times I've had people come to me, especially sisters, say, well, I'm just going to adopt. I want a baby so bad, I'm just going to adopt one. Okay, cool. But that's not really your child, all right? I mean, you can raise them as your child. You can call them your child, tell people that's your child. But what is their Egun lineage? When you two put up a family, a house shrine, you're going to have to put up two different shrines. And what do you know about their lineage? You see, these are some of the tragedies of Western culture that we try to skip over and just, try to alleviate with our own culture and say, oh, we could just slide it right in here. Some things are not going to slide in. They're not a perfect fit. We have to address them and deal with them differently. Am I saying don't adopt children stuff? No, I'm not saying that. But see it for what it is. You see, you having your man-woman-child formation, which creates your solid base, is something different than adopting children. Or you live with your sister and her children, and you say, this is my family. Yeah, but it's not your family. It's actually your parents' family. I know it's kind of hard to hear maybe or to think about sometimes. Taurine asked, Chief, I thought Obatala came down on a silver chain. Correct me if I'm wrong. I told you the story changes. In some stories, it wasn't Obatala. It was Orunmila. In some stories, it was Oduduwa. That's when you hear me talk about the Trinity. It was always one of the three. In some stories, Orunmila came down first, but he didn't finish the job, so Oduduwa came after and finished. In some stories, Obatala came down first, but he got drunk, so Oduduwa came back down and did it again. Some stories it's a silver chain, some stories it's a gold chain. But again, you got to be able to step back a little bit. Don't religiousize it. You religiousize it when you say it was this, it was that, it's got to be this, it's got to be that. Because here's the truth. What is silver? Femininity. Silver represents the feminine line. What is gold? Masculinity. Silver correlates itself to the moon. Gold correlates itself to the sun. So think about this. Wouldn't it be silver and gold? Because male and female is descending through enlightenment. So in some stories, you're going to get it was a silver chain if you're speaking about it from the maternal perspective. In some stories, it was a gold chain if you're speaking about it from the paternal perspective. In some stories, it was Orunmila or it was Obatala. In some stories, it was Oduduwa, depending on if you're looking at it from the male or female perspective. So when you religiousize it, you wouldn't even pick up on any of that. You'd be arguing about which one it was, which I've heard those arguments before. Most people don't even talk about the story that Olorun and Olokun were present already, because Olorun is the sky. Remember, he descended down on the chain. Well, he descended down onto the planet. Who created the planet? The planet and the water had to have been there already. What was that? Who did that? There had to have been air already, because remember, he dropped the hen. The hen had to breathe. Who did that? You know? So yeah, man, there's more to the story than a lot of times what we get from just the religious, ideation of it. Lisa says, my brother said something powerful. Women can't raise a child. It takes a man to do that. The feminist movement destroyed the psychological minds of the black woman's mind and the black home. Yeah. It did its thing. The feminist movement is still putting that work in, because like I said, you have multi-layered feminists. You got people who think that they're conscious of it, they don't even realize they're feminists, or they don't see anything wrong with being a feminist. What's wrong with being a feminist? The word itself doesn't seem inherently evil, and it's not. But of course, there's a concept that comes along with that. Or those speak against patriarchy. Down with patriarchy. There's nothing inherently wrong with patriarchy. Just like there's nothing inherently wrong with the matriarchal order. But there's a space and a configuration for matriarchy and patriarchy. There's a space and configuration for masculinity and femininity. But people are not as bright as you might think they are. Like, when I put that posting up where I had the gorilla and I said, when the silverback says, come on, it's time to go, let's go. Somebody put a comment and said, that sounds like masculine toxicity to me. Or no, toxic masculinity. People make up these little stupid terms, don't even know what they're saying. So if I say anything that speaks to masculinity or speaks to manhood, not even masculinity, manhood, we already have a response for you. We got something waiting for you. Just like a man who stands up and says, you know what? No, I'm going to take care of my family. We got a response for you already. Because now you're encroaching upon the state's territory. Sister Marva says, you spoke earlier on about family. I have family support with this responsibility because my husband has made his transition. See, it's different because you're an elder. Well, I don't even think you're an elder yet, Sister Marva. I think you're still. I know we kick in the elder thing a lot sooner here in the States. Somebody be 50 and we'll be like, oh, it's an elder. Nah, not really. Or 60, 65. We call them elders. They're actually still not elders yet. So I don't think, but for American standards, let's say you're an elder, your husband is transitioned. Yeah, so it's different in that situation. When you step into that matriarchal or that crone role, even in a sense, your stance is different. Some of the things, like the conversations we talk about, spreading your legs and having babies, you ain't making no more babies. That doesn't apply to you. Your situation is much different now. But yeah, absolutely having that familial support is key. But you're being responsible, for your grands, and you're opening them up to this information as a mother matriarch should do. We spoke about that recently when I said, yeah, a lot of you guys don't realize that it's your mother that's helping to run your household. I know that doesn't feel good. It probably doesn't sound good. But in traditional senses, man, it's your, I tell you, man, the worst thing you can tell a woman is that she's going to tell her mother if she does something off in the house. That's the worst thing you could say, I'm gonna beat you. I'm gonna beat you behind. I'm gonna go get a stalk, a coconut stalk, or I'm gonna go get a cane, a bamboo cane. She look at you like, well, man, I'll take the beating. I'm strong. You say, I'm gonna tell your mother. Oh man, she'll be crying, dragging on your leg. Oh no, don't tell her. That's the worst thing to hear. So yeah, man, okay, she says, Chief, I'm in my 60s. Yeah, you ain't no elder yet. See, that's the thing. Like, here we're unhealthy. So we hit 40s, 50s, like, oh, getting old. Even your 60s, but and healthier environments, 60, you still moving and grooving. I got relatives in places, man, they 70, late 70s. He still rides a bike everywhere. One of my elders still rides his bicycle everywhere. He's in his late 70s. He ain't moving slow or none of that, and we talking about dirt roads. We ain't talking about no paved roads. They live in the bush, So it's just the environment we're in. I know brothers who's, mid 70s still pulling nets, still fishing and net fishing, pulling nets and going out into the water under the sun, still farming. In a healthy environment, 60 isn't as old as it is in America. 60s, we retired. Everything's broke. We're on medication, all that kind of stuff. But it doesn't have to be as such. I've often said you don't really turn old till you hit 80. At 80, you'd start to look different. But you should pretty much still look the same throughout your life, up through your 60s and everything. Sometimes you see somebody you ain't seen since high school, and you're in your 50s, 60s, and you saying, is that you? That's an unhealthy person if their face has distorted and changed that much. Something's wrong, But yeah, so the thing is different. Justin said, my parents decided to adopt a teen male, and because they aren't balanced, he isn't receiving the help for his sexual issues. He's being maintained instead, and other issues are still coming out from not studying his lineage. Yeah, well, the beauty is, Justin, you already know what the problem is now because you've been studying. You might have been sitting there scratching your head like everybody else, and what the heck is wrong with this kid? But you know what it is now, man. Yeah, you look at him. You can look at your parents and say, hey, man, the boy ain't right, man. The boy ain't right. This is what's going on. You got to talk to him about his genealogy. Talk to him about his lineage, man. There's some components to healthy family building that maybe you didn't get either as a youth. You can look at yourself and say, these are some of the things I was missing, and now you're getting ready to do it again. So, and a teen male, let me make something clear on that one too. He's darn near a man. He's just about done. If he's 13, he's almost done. And I'm not discouraging people from adopting teen children, but again, in American culture, we don't become adults to a long time. They make us adults too late, and then they make us senior citizens too soon. You got a boy who's 15, 16 years old. You're looking at a man in front of you. That's a man. Not just when he turns 18. 15, 16, that's a man. What's the difference between 16 and 18? The only difference is what they get in school, in high school. Well, 15, 16, he's a sophomore. 18, he's a senior. So does the mentality change? Yeah, but only because of the responsibility or the perception of what a senior in high school is. You take a homeschooled 15-year-old, and that homeschooled 15-year-old has a mentality and a wherewithal and the maturity of a 24-year-old. That's real talk. You know, at 18, they like a 30-year-old. But we keep them stunted. That's why after 4th grade, they don't teach you anything new. After 4th grade, what are you doing? Reading, writing, arithmetic. You don't get anything new after 4th grade. It's the same stuff. That's why after 4th grade is when they start moving everyone into special ed. Who's going to go to special ed? They start classifying after 4th grade because they know that you ain't getting nothing much different after this. You know, you don't learn chemistry and then they start teaching you alchemy. You know, you don't get history and then they start teaching you the science of geo-world politics. You get the same stuff, just with bigger words. Same math, just larger equations. You know, so it keeps you stunted for a very long time. You might get a year of shop class in middle school. You could build a crooked birdhouse, you know, or a spice rack. You know, nobody uses those because we got, you know, kitchen cabinets now. You know, you might be able to do something like that. Or I don't think they have home ec anymore. They used to have home economics, you know, where you could go and learn how to iron and sew. They probably don't even have that stuff no more. You know, now you take a computer class. So yeah, you know, things have changed a little bit. All right, we're gonna get out of here. I've had enough of you. No, I'm joking. but yeah, you know, so just consider, like I said, we started off, I was speaking about the components of family and really how we maintain the strength of families, man. And one of the main things I was saying, what constitutes that family. And if you notice, right, the questions and the comments that were coming up, you know, between Sister Nikki and Define, I always mess your name up. Define, not design, right? I think that's or is it designs, not define? Designs, not define. Who would pick a doggone tongue twister for a screen name anyway? Anyway, so, you know, but Sister Diana, Sister Marva, you know, Brother Tareen, Brother Justin, all the ones who were bringing up the different situations. If you notice, all of them spoke to the same thing, which is what I was saying earlier, which constitutes a real family. There was a lack of shared values and principles. We're all thinking differently. We're all looking at things differently. We don't have cohesion or cohesive vision. There's no collective vision. We're not working on the same project together. You working on one project, I'm working on a different project. And our vision and our outcomes are completely different. You see? I told you it's really that one thing that creates the dissolution and disintegration of what could be a healthy family model. It's the lack of shared or transmittable values, principles, and mores. Because when you have transmittable and shared values, principles, and mores, then you create a common family identity. You create a common family purpose, and then that also trickles down to unique and individual purpose and identity. Because remember, your character is only formed or really understood within the context of a community. So your first community is your family. So your family makes you aware of what your character is. So once you're aware of what your character is, then you become more aware of what your purpose is. So before you even exit your family paradigm, you already have identity and purpose under your belt. You got that part. You may come out saying, I'm Rasta, I'm a Jew, I'm Yoruba, I'm this and that, but I have my purpose and my identity before I even hit the street. Now, how did that come about? Again, shared principles, values, and mores. Remember, the value, the V, the Vav, that's what holds the stake of the tent down. That holds the covering of the shelter of family down. That stakes it down and gives it an anchoring and gives it a weight. You know, that gives it its iron weight. That Vav, that value, that's the iron in your family. And if those values are not shared, like how do we look at food? How do we look at marriage? Right? What do we call ourselves? You know, what race are we? What ethnic group are we? You know, how do we treat other people? How do we greet other people? And in our greeting, what is it that we're trying to transmit? Because remember, within your culture lies your language. So when I'm using my language, what am I transmitting? What values, what familial values do I transmit via my language? See, like when I say good dawning to you all, which a lot of you say now too, when I say good dawning, I'm transmitting the value that my family holds for the sunrise. Just in the very greeting. Good dawning. You see? So, and I'm, of course, giving a small example in that sense, but your very language that your family shares lets the world know where your stakes are, where you've anchored yourself. So it's very difficult to begin to toy with the self-identity and the self-esteem of said members. It becomes a very difficult process. Yeah, very difficult. All right. So just consider that. I always give you assignment on Fridays. I always give you homework. But what I really would like you to look at is look at some of the things that I mentioned earlier in the segment as to the simple things that we can do. Speak about your genealogy, like Designs Not Defined said. I speak to my son too much, by all my past all the time. Speak about your genealogy a bit. Speak about some of the triumphs and the victories of your relatives. Like I shared with you all, my family was involved in several insurrections on plantations on this soil. So I'm not one of those people who can say, well, maybe my family was enslaved. I know for a fact they were. All right, big deal. We got that out the way. But I also know that they killed 2 slave makers. I'm cool with that, man. So I have that under my belt, right? So when I start to go out into the world and people call me uppity or I'm rebellious or whatever, I can refer back and say, well, listen, man, my uncles, my great uncles, great grandfather, they killed their slave maker because he kept calling out, one of the women in my family. He kept raping her. He call out at night, go down the alley and call her, and she had to come outside. They were tired of that junk. They said, nah, man. And one night he came out there and called. I ain't gonna tell y'all the whole story. Statute of limitations is up, but called her out again like he did every night. Her name was Tilly. He called out Tilly, and they jumped out on him and cut him up literally into pieces, stuffed him underneath the slave shack, and then ran up into the mountains. So now if someone says something to me like, oh, Chief, why won't you go with, why don't you teach Ifa and Orisha well, I am teaching traditional. A lot of people just don't know, but teach it the way that they do it now, and this and that, and why do you mix systems? Listen, man, I got rebellious blood in me, man. I got the blood of people who insurrect in me. So I have that sense of identity and purpose already. You see, so look at that value. I'm sharing one little, I got other stories, but y'all don't need to know my business. But look at that. I'm sure all of your families have stories. They may not be so birth of a nation-ish, but I'm sure you have something. Again, like I said, maybe somebody got laid off, or they were part of a war. They fought in a war, or they remember the Great Depression and the things that they had to do, or someone was lynched, or this, whatever it is. This family stories. Share those things with your youth and let them see how traditionally you deal with things. Because that gives you a sense of the values. We learn our values when our situations are cracked open, and then we have to pull from the resources of our principles and mores. What kind of principles do we stand on when things happen? What do we stand on? And what do we share? Where is our integrity? What is the integral structure of said family, of our history? You see? So that's your assignment. That's your assignment, man. Spend some deliberate and willing time with your family, and listen to each other respectfully. Listen, seek for understanding of one another, and share some of your chronicle. And if you can't remember any of your chronicle, hop in the car and sightsee. Take them somewhere. This is where I lost my virginity. No, don't tell them that. This is where you was conceived. See that dumpster over there, right behind the dumpster? But no, what you do is, share some of your chronicle with your family in that sense. All right. Okay, so we're out of here. I'll see you all this Sunday for Chief Speaks. Oh, and because I always mess this up, man. There is a men's call coming up this Sunday. Same time, same bat place, same bat time. Okay, there's a men's call. So make sure you brothers tune in for that. I might even try to catch that one myself if I can get off the show early enough, man. So this Sunday, men's call popping off again. And I know the sisters have asked me about the women's call. It's coming up. Well, I'm working on it. And right now, just, the questions again surrounding Sedula House, we had to recompile the classes. Okay, so it's just a little bit of a delay. The developers, were unable to retrieve the classes. Okay, so that also means that your position in the classes will be reset. And what that means is that, say if you were on crystals and you were on the 4th or 5th module, because we have to reset them, most likely you'll be brought back to the first module. All right. It is what it is. Well, no, let me not do that. I apologize for the inconvenience that this may cause you at this time, and I thank you for your patience. I'll do the customer service thing. All right. So we're going to head out, and I see, of course, some comments at the last minute. Y'all can keep the dialogue going, man. Use the YouTube video. Use the YouTube comment section. All right. But as for me, I'm out of here. All right. I'll speak to you all this Sunday. Peace.